The auction yard was quieter than usual that cold evening. No cattle bawling, no horses stamping, just a small crowd of men shifting in the dust as a drunk stumbled up onto the platform, dragging a thin, trembling girl behind him. Rancher Luke Marston had come to buy fence wire, not people. But the moment he saw the girl, he stopped breathing. Barefoot, dirt-smudged, no older than 17. Her braid was tangled, her clothes torn, and her gray eyes stared blankly ahead, so blankly that Luke realized she wasn't reacting to the noise around her at all. She didn't flinch at the drunk father's yelling. Didn't react as men laughed and whispered. She seemed completely unaware of the world around her. Someone in the crowd muttered, "She's deaf. Man's getting rid of her 'cause she's useless." Luke felt something dark and cold tighten in his chest. The drunk slurred, "She don't listen, she don't talk. Eat my food and give nothing back. Who'll take her? A few dollars, just enough for another drink." Luke's jaw clenched. This was wrong. This was evil. This was not the kind of thing a decent town should allow. Yet no one stepped forward. So Luke did. He walked straight to the platform, placed his money on the table and said, "I'll take her." The crowd fell silent. The drunk grabbed the bills with greed, shoving the girl forward like she was an unwanted sack. "Yours now," he spat. Luke caught her before she fell. She froze at his touch, rigid, shaking. "You're safe," Luke murmured gently. "You're coming with me." Her eyes flickered, but she didn't respond. On the ride back to his ranch, she sat stiffly on the wagon seat, hands clenched in her lap. Luke didn't push her. He didn't speak loudly. He didn't even look at her too long, afraid she'd think he was another man who intended to harm her. When they reached the ranch house, he helped her down carefully. "My name's Luke," he said softly. "You can stay here as long as you need. No harm will come to you." No reaction. She didn't speak, didn't look at him, didn't even glance around the warm kitchen when he made her soup. He set the bowl in front of her, then backed away to give her space. She ate slowly, like someone who'd been punished for eating too fast. When she finished, she folded her hands neatly and stared at the table. Luke sighed quietly. She didn't even know she was allowed to move freely. "You can rest in the spare room," he said gently. Still nothing. He showed her the room and left the door open so she wouldn't feel trapped. That night Luke barely slept. He kept replaying the way she flinched at shadows, the way she froze when someone raised their voice. She wasn't just deaf. She was traumatized. And he could not, let her suffer anymore. Over the next weeks, Luke tried everything to communicate with her. Gestures, notes, soft taps on the table. He even bought a book on sign language from the town library. She learned her name was Leela. She learned she didn't need permission to drink water. She learned she could sit by the fire without being yelled at. But she still didn't respond, not in words, not in signs, not in facial expressions. Just silence. Until one night. Luke was repairing a saddle in the barn, the warm glow of the lantern lighting the worn leather. Leela sat nearby on a hay bale, rocking gently, a habit she did when nervous. Everything was still. Then a bucket slipped from a hook and clattered loudly onto the ground. Leela jumped so violently she fell off the hay bale. Luke dropped the saddle. "Leela, you okay?" And then he froze, because she clapped her hands over her ears. Her ears. Luke's pulse thundered. She had reacted to sound. "Leela," he whispered, walking slowly toward her. "You heard that?" She stared at him, really stared for the first time. Her lips parted slightly. "Leela," he said softly, almost afraid to hope, "can you hear me?" She hesitated, then nodded. A tiny, barely there nod, but a nod all the same. Luke sank onto his knees in front of her, stunned. You can hear." She pressed her hands to her ears again, eyes squeezing shut, and whispered the first word he had ever heard from her. Loud. Luke felt the world tilt. She wasn't deaf. She had been pretending to be deaf. Not out of deceit, but out of survival. He swallowed hard. Were they yelling at you before? She nodded, tears welling. And pretending not to hear kept you safe. Another nod. Oh God. His chest tightened painfully. He reached a trembling hand toward her, but stopped a few inches away. Leela, no one will yell here. No one will hurt you, ever. She opened her eyes and whispered, promise. Luke felt something break inside him. On my life, he said. For the first time her face changed, just barely. Her lips trembled, her shoulders shook. And then Leela did something he never expected. She leaned forward and pressed her forehead against his chest, sobbing silently as he wrapped his arms around her, carefully, gently, like she was something precious. Because she was. From that day on, Leela stopped pretending she was deaf. She spoke little in a soft voice like a frightened bird. She listened carefully, always flinching at loud noises, but she tried. She learned new words. She followed Luke around the ranch, helping with chores, feeding the horses, brushing the barn cats. And Luke never raised his voice, not once. With time, her fear loosened its grip. With time, her voice grew a little stronger. With time, she began to smile. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, she stood beside Luke at the fence line. You saved me, she whispered. Luke shook his head. No, Leela, you saved yourself. I just gave you a place to land. She looked up at him, eyes soft, trusting. Then let me stay, she whispered, even when I'm not scared anymore. Luke's breath caught. He nodded slowly, as long as you want. And for the first time, Leela reached for his hand on her own. The girl who once lived in silence was finally learning to live in sound again. And the lonely rancher who thought his life was empty found it full again, quietly, gently, beautifully, because of the girl he once thought couldn't hear. But she heard. She heard everything. And for the first time, she believed she was safe.